Hey, all right, let's just jump into it here. Ingredient list is up on the right. We've got our unsweetened coconut, which we're going to use. We've got a stick of butter, which I believe is about a cup of butter, the entire thing. We're going to melt that down. You've got that. We've got in the background there, you're going to see I've got some just plain old sea salt, pinch of salt, some stevia extract, not necessary, but it's if you want a bit of a sweeter crust, and some psyllium husk powder. All right, so this is kind of key. This is a binding ingredient. It's also full of fiber. It's also the same stuff that's in Metamucil, so just watch your dose. You've been warned. But it's a very, very interesting ingredient for low carb baking, and it really binds things together in a way that you don't get with other ingredients. And finally, we've got a bit of coconut flour. You can also use almond flour if you want a grittier or thicker crust. All right, so that's for our crust. Let's move on to the other ingredients. All right, so for the filling ingredients, we have dash of vanilla extract. We're gonna have some lime juice because this is a coconut lime cheesecake, obviously. We're gonna have, next up, we got some Splenda stevia mix. Now, what's cool about the Splenda stevia mix is that you can get this in any grocery store. It's cheaper than Swerve and some of the other alternatives. And it's actually pretty clean. It's just got erythritol and stevia. That's it. Made by Splenda, strangely enough. They don't put any of those weird dextrose, maltodextrin BS fillers that they like to do in some of their sweeteners, which you want to stay away from any of that stuff because it's pure chemical. It's nasty. This is relatively okay to bake with. Don't worry if it's granular, it's going to cook down. Last but not least, we have 3 packs of Philadelphia cream cheese. Any cream cheese will do. Obviously, this is a 2 net carb cheesecake. This is not a 2 net calorie cheesecake. So if you want better health out of this, you can go with a low fat cheese. All right, we're going to start off with our coconut flour. Next up, a pinch of salt. Just a pinch, not too much. Dash of stevia. Our psyllium husk fiber. Cup of shredded coconut. Now just mix that all up a little bit with a spoon or fork, whatever, before you continue. Now we're going to add to that our melted butter. And it goes. We're starting to add the wet ingredients now. And lastly, we're going to add our egg. Just one, just to bind it together. Now mix everything together until you get this kind of crumble-like substance. So it's going to be very much like a crumble if you've made a crumble, like an apple crisp or something like that you just throw on top. Similar idea, maybe a little bit more granular. Now you can take this, fill your pan with it. Any pan will do, ceramic pan, non-stick pan, doesn't matter. And then you're going to kind of just press it out with a spoon and form the crust with it. All this stuff will compress down and you can make a really, really smooth and even crust with it. I prefer to use a spoon for this. I just find it easier. If it was a large enough pie tin, you could use like a cup as a roller. You don't need a fancy roller or anything to do this. Just use a spoon and smooth it out. We're going to time lapse a bit. And voila, this is what we're left with. All right, so it's pretty smooth, and the oil and the butter will cook it, sort of melt through everything and cook it in a much more cohesive and hard fashion. So don't worry about it being perfect. Just has to be relatively smoothed out with the edges up as far as you want them. All right, try and get in the corners too. Otherwise, you have those weird kind of chunky little corner bits on the corners of your pie, which you don't necessarily want. Okay, for the wet ingredients, this was pretty simple. You're literally just gonna mix all the wet ingredients together. You got your cream cheese, you got your eggs, dash of vanilla is gonna go on there. You're gonna throw your stevia stevia Splenda mix in there too. And then you're just going to take a hand blender and just blend it till it reaches a creamy kind of pudding-like consistency. Oh, and of course, if you're doing the coconut lime version, as we are doing in this video, you're going to want to add your about 3 tablespoons of just lime juice, fresh or prepared. And this is what we're left with, a very smooth and viscous filling. And we're just going to set that aside for now. Grab your crust out of the oven. Doesn't have to be fully cooked. You want it to be mostly like about medium cooked, all right? So not too brown, obviously, but brown around the edges. Pour your cheesecake mixture in there. Yeah, there we go. Just get every last drop out. You can use a spatula as I have. And then as soon as that's all filled, and it should fill it just perfectly with 3 packs of cream cheese and just the right ingredients, 3 eggs and everything I've listed. It should fill an average, what is that, like just a standard pie tin perfectly. I like the deep ones too. You don't get the narrow ones. They don't fill as well. And then once that's done, you're just going to pop that right back in the oven. And voila, out she comes. So the base will be better cooked. I didn't really feel like putting a fruit topping or anything on mine. You can go crazy with yours if you want and cover up some of the brown. But it's a pretty smooth cook, and I'll show you the inside. We can see the inside from the still as well too. It's very, very creamy and rich and dense. And I just sprinkled a little bit of swerve on top of it and call it a day. And it is ready to serve after it sits, obviously. So let it cool, then top it with whatever you're going to top it with. Pop it back in the fridge and let it sit for a good hour or 2 before you dig in, all right? Hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll be back soon with some more recipes and cool stuff. Bye.